Hello everyone and welcome to Blue Tengu's live game development show where we show everything that goes into making a game from concept to completion. If you've ever wanted to make a game, we hope this will help lower the barrier to entry, maybe give you the nudge you needed to try it yourself. Even if you don't want to make a game, we hope you'll find some entertainment value in what we're doing here. All of the information about where you can find us is in the Twitch info down below or in our YouTube profile for those of you catching us later, but just in case, we're at www.bluetengu.com. Btengu on Twitter, that's B the letter B. I should probably spell that out for you guys. BTENGU. And YouTube.com Blue Tengu Studio for those of you watching the live stream. And Twitch TV Blue Tengu for those of you watching us later on YouTube, where you can catch past episodes, but you shouldn't have any trouble following along, even if you haven't seen the show before. For those of you who haven't seen the show before, my name's Eric. I'm a game designer living over here in Japan who's trying to show you everything that goes into making a game for 2 hours a week, including all of the ums and ahs and awkward debugging moments. Shouldn't have too many today, I hope. The reason I'm showing it all as opposed to making the game first and scripting out a rehearsed tutorial is because I do want to lower the barrier so many of us feel towards making a game, and I hope inspire you to stick with it or go out and try it if you haven't tried it before. If you're here with me on Twitch, feel free to drop suggestions or ask me questions at any time. May not be able to answer them right away, especially if the chat gets going, but I'll try to get to them, and if it looks like I missed one, please send me a private message here, leave a comment on our site or YouTube video, or send an email to eric@bluetengu.com, that's Eric with a C, and I'll do my best to address it next time. If any of you are out there making something and you don't mind showing it off, send me a link to your stuff, I'd love to see it. Feel free to post it in the Twitch chat if you're here with me live. And at this time, every week for 2 hours, I come on to Twitch TV to develop a game, which for this season is Project Spaghetti, a top-down 2D cowboy shooter where the bullets fired bounce around the screen with a pinball mechanic. Thank you to everyone who dropped by last week and to all of those who watched the video on YouTube. Last week, we added some nighttime effects for when the sun or moon drop in our game, that time limit that we had going. And this week, I'd like to go back to gameplay a little bit by making the bumper objects feel like proper pinball bumpers. Now that we have a time limit and players can't just game that kind of system, it's possible to make all of those solid objects, well, like if you've seen the show before, you've noticed there are barrels and things like that there. It's possible to, make all those objects that bullets bounce off of into more pinball-style bumpers. And in keeping with the spirit of making faster bullets worth more, because they're more dangerous for the player, red-hot bullets that hit a bumper should be worth more than just the plain gray bullets that just come straight from the gun. Also, if we can get bumpers rattling or reacting to bullets, it'll help add to the pinball vibe in the game. So let's head over to Trello where I keep the task list and get started. Let's see here. Get rid of my Twitter announcement there. I did actually properly announce the show on Twitter this week, so good on me there. Alright, let's go over here, and there's the task list. I should probably move the window up a little bit to make sure that you guys can see everything that I'm seeing. There we go, just in case. And Trello is where I keep my task list. It's public, so you can come over, see it anytime you want. I don't think people can leave comments on the tasks. I would want to set that up, but haven't set that up yet. But I know you can vote on it because I think one of our users, like PandaBits, has voted on a few tasks in the past. So you can vote on tasks, I suppose, if you want to say this is more important than some of the other stuff. Like an example of that is like this options control guide one here. Last week, let's see. Oops, I think I announced the wrong thing in Twitter there, Dark Matters. Oh, this week's episode is not Dark Matters, it's Pinball Wizard. My bad. But last week, it was all about getting objects to kind of glow at night. Left a few tasks for later, but got it all working in the end there. Last week was Golden Week in Japan, which means, let's see, had about a week. Because before that, before last week's episode, I was off in Taiwan, but this last week I was actually home and able to work. So I did get a lot of overtime tasks done, as you can see there, 20 hours. Got a beefy chunk of tasks done, so I'm not going to go through them all one by one and show them in the game. But I did post a link on our site. Well, not a link, but an article, I guess, on our site that kind of shows what I did do in the meantime, because it was a lot of stuff, and the whole goal of this is to show you everything that goes into making a game from concept to completion, as it says right there. So Golden Week overtime kind of goes through all that. So for example, like the nighttime system, bullets show up at night too. Before they were just getting darker and darker with everything else. Now, like players and enemies, they show up at night. Alien lasers also show up at night. Also, this was something I just wanted to test, but ended up actually putting it in the game because it actually worked. Was a map. The reason I did this was for something that comes up later, but because there are multiple stages per theme, I want to make sure that players know that. Well, I wanted to make sure that players know that there are other types of levels coming up, because if the first 4 levels are all taking place in the town, and you don't know about other levels, then obviously, after the 3rd level or something, you might be thinking, is this all there is? But I want to make sure that players do understand that there are other types out here without having to kind of jump back and forth between them. So I think this will make a big difference. Obviously, it's a very temporary looking map. It's very old school looking. I just basically put dots and stuff there. But you'll be able to see that when I play the game. Menus and systems. Extended the fader object to allow fading into the start menu because it was a little too sudden. Also can use the fader in other places now. Before it was just for transitioning from one room to another, but now it's a little more fancy, I suppose. Also, room initialization code. This was something where I was starting to add some levels, like the challenge room levels and things like that, and it was like there were 4 or 5 places where I had to update something just to add a level, and that was kind of a hassle. Plus, inside of GameMaker, well, you'll see later, there were places where in like the room initialization code, it's something where unless you click on the button, you don't even realize that there is code there. So I wanted to move all that to some place that was one place that was much more visible. So I moved that so each room has its own initialization script, which handles like music and enemies and things like that. So it's all just one place. Also reorganized the movement path grid, which is this showing these squares here, to allow per level size adjustments. And what that means is before, like these scorpion enemies, if you can kind of see it there on the webpage, they were kind of fat compared to the other enemies. So using the same, these like red zones that I was using for like the bad cowboy enemies that are in the game, meant that the scorpions got stuck on things a lot. And for like bosses and things like that, needed to kind of expand it out a little bit to make sure enemies don't just come traipsing into here. So now it's per level, which makes a big difference. Enemies don't get stuck all the time. And for bumpers, which are the things we're going to be working on today, the cactus and tree sprites, like this is the cactus version. Cacti and tree sprites bumpers, if you hit them with a bullet, they fire out these like needles or ornament shards or whatever at the player. And the direction varies based on, how many times you've hit it and stuff like that. It wasn't very clear where the next thing would be firing or whether it would fire or not, because they did have a cooldown. So I added a little bit. It's really hard to see with the screenshot here, but added little spines to, for example, the cacti, so that you can tell where the next cactus spines are going to be firing out. Also added a pumpkin bumper to the graveyard that follows the player with its eyes. This is just purely aesthetic. I just wanted to throw it in there because it's a little bit of a variation. And it's kind of neat that the eyes follow you. Purely visual. Levels created placeholder stages because in the end, we don't want to just have like 6 levels and then that's the game. We do want to have variations because right now, the enemies that are coming out are more or less more difficult, I would say. So, like for example, if someone's just starting the game, it's probably too much. For example, like the alien level or something, you already have like 6 or 7 aliens coming out and firing lasers and stuff, and it's like, you probably need to ease the player into a little bit more than that. So, you need to have placeholder stages so that it can create a difficulty curve that looks something like this. I think we talked about it not too long ago, but start off easy, get harder and harder, then kind of drop off, get harder and harder, drop off, get harder and harder. I want to have something more like this because it's more entertaining that way. As it was now, it was just pretty much always hard. So need to add those levels in later, but that's a task for the future. Enemies. Bad cowboys hold out their gun before shooting to give the player some warning that they're shooting. I had those sprites in there the whole time because the player has that, the boss has that. For some reason, I just wasn't calling those sprites, probably because I forgot about it or something. But now the bad cowboys, because they've always had this like warm-up where they freeze for a few seconds and then fire the shot. So now they actually hold their gun out so that they're going to shoot. Also created a bunch of placeholder bosses, which are basically larger size versions of the mini enemies, and synced all the colors up so players know exactly what colors mean. Red enemies, green enemies, things like that. All those bosses are in there. And Pima99 drops by and asks, "Are you Japanese?" No, no, I am not Japanese. I am over in Japan, but I am not Japanese. I'm American, Californian, but I live and work over here. So, and I've been here, let's see, 12 years now? 12 years. I think 12 years, give or take a year. Ever since I graduated college, I've been over here the whole time. So that's why I'm broadcasting from Japan. Yeah, no, no, I'm not Japanese. Um, let's see, created placeholder bosses and matched all. By the way, Pima99, welcome to the chat. Hope you enjoy what we're doing here. Just going over like the tasks that I did during the vacation in Japan, and then I'll go into actually making the game and showing it off. But placeholder bosses, we'll have to work on the actual gameplay for the bosses later, but I just wanted to put them in there and make sure they work. For visuals, added fog to the graveyard and alien levels. This is kind of an extension of the weather stuff, but have actually fog now rolling through those levels. Also created tile variations. Tiles are these floor things. Created variations for the desert and alien levels because before they were just using, like for example, the desert level was just using this. Wanted to have some variation to make the stages look different. Also changed that weird tumbleweed particle to an object that blows by randomly every once in a while, because the problem with particles is that you don't have any control over how they move. Not much control anyway. So now it's an object, so I can actually control how fast it moves and how it slows down and speeds up and how often it shows up. Also, the health pickup, which up until now has been this little like red cross inside of a circle, really, really tiny, hard to see, is now more recognizable. It's a giant heart that kind of spins around. So you'll see that, I'm sure, when I get hit by something. Also added basic shadows to the players, enemies, and bumpers. Hard to see in this screenshot, but just a tiny little semi-transparent, like not perfect circle, but kind of a diagonal circle. That kind of shows up below them. Adds a little bit. Also tested, this was from a reach task on this task list over here. Way down at the bottom, there was a task to have a curtain that kind of closes and opens and stuff like that. I tested it out. I'm not sure it fits the game too well. Like I said, conclusion might not be so hot. I'll think about it. Obviously, it was just a placeholder curtain, so that might be part of the problem, but I don't think it really adds much to the game, so it's probably not worth putting in there. Also, sounds added footstep sounds for the player, so it just doesn't sound silent as they're moving around, and did a couple of bug fixes, mostly system stuff, but thank you, Noob 24/7 365, for your help with the Night Surface. Although it wasn't an alpha thing, it was a surface thing. Getting me kind of investigating the alpha transparency and stuff was really helpful in kind of figuring out, okay, wait a minute, I should try this, and I got it fixed. So thank you. And if you watch this video, thank you personally. But that's all the overtime stuff, and don't want to spend too much time on that, but all these tasks are over here. There's also descriptions of exactly how I fixed it in GameMaker inside of each of these links if you want to come over to Trello. And if you search for Trello Project Spaghetti, you'll find this. But today, it's all about making the game feel a little more pinball, hence Pinball Wizard, the title. Want to make sure that the bell, the bumpers, actually let's switch these. All of those bumpers in the games, every time you hit them with a bullet, they should be worth a couple of points depending on how fast your bullet's going. Also want to have the bell, every ring is worth points. Maybe the crystals when the aliens are hitting them are worth points, things like that. If I can get to it, also making the bumpers like sway and react to bullets. Making these things worth points is going to be really, really trivial. The thing that's going to be kind of hard is showing the player that these things are worth points. So there's going to have to be something visual in here. So let's add that. That's actually an important task. Get rid of that. Okay. What I'm thinking right now is to actually have the color change or something, because if I show like a point value coming out of it, it's going to be kind of distracting. if there are too many bullets running around the screen and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see. But first, let's actually make them worth points. And before I do that, I should go over to GameMaker and actually show you the game, since I've been going on for about 50 minutes without showing you the actual game itself. GameMaker is what I use to make this Project Spaghetti. Good for 2D games. Just the right amount of tool for making a 2D game. Can use Unity, can use Unreal. Unreal, for example, has Paper 2D, things like that. But I kind of prefer this because it's just the right amount. I am like a kind of a one-man army here in terms of making this game, so it's Unity and stuff like that would be a little too much for what I need to do. So let's jump into the actual game and kind of show you where we're at. Hopefully it works. Did test it yesterday. There we go. As you can see, it faded into the title, and you'll see the map there. So that's new. Obviously, it's the first stage just starting out, so that one appears. First stage, tutorial stage, unless you've already done the tutorial. Real simple. It works with controller, keyboard, mouse, anything you want to do. Right now, because I was using the mouse to select something, it's going to give me the mouse tutorial here, but aim at the enemy, left mouse button to shoot, it's simple. You can also duck bullets, and when you duck a bullet, or if the enemy ducks a bullet, it speeds it up. The bullet also speeds up the more it bounces around. Bullets that bounce around get faster and faster, so they're harder for you to dodge, but at the same time, if they hit an enemy, they're worth more points. I'm going to use a combination of the mouse and keyboard because I like ducking with the keyboard better. Personal preference. Okay, and as you can see, this stage is clear. Moving on to the next stage. I'm going to jump ahead to the graveyard level. With this one, they're ghosts. This challenges you in a different way, because if you try to shoot them, the bullet just goes through them. So what you have to do is hit that bell to get the ghosts angry enough at you where you can hit them. But every time you hit that bell, the ghosts chase you, and bats come flying down, so there's a little bit of a risk to it. You have to time it well. And move on to the third type of stage. So all these are just placeholder stages, so there's no actual enemies showing up in these ones. Here are the cacti that I was talking about earlier. Their spines actually indicate the direction these things will shoot out. Like these ones are on the left and the top, so they'll shoot out like that. And with the scorpions, as you can see, if you shoot them from the front, they just get upset and charge you. You have to shoot them in the back to kill them. But I'll skip ahead here. This is the alien stage. Again, if you try to hit the alien, it just bounces off. What you have to do is get these guys to hit a crystal, which disables their shields for just long enough where you can kill them. And here's the Christmas stage, the snowmen. You can shoot them as much as you like, but they've got 3 parts. You have to destroy all 3 parts to get rid of them. If you take off the head, they just start wandering around randomly, which is fine. Usually it's easier to dodge them that way, but if you take off a non-head part, they know exactly where you are because they can see you, so they start chasing you around really fast, which makes it a little more tricky. And these are the challenge stages that we worked on before. Also, I should probably show you, let's see, that's the boss. For example, these placeholder bosses that I've put in the game, they're basically giant versions of the enemies. Don't actually have gameplay for them yet. They just behave exactly like regular enemies or powered up versions of regular enemies, but in the end, gonna have to have different gameplay things for them. But that's the game in a nutshell. Let's start adding points to those bumpers. And What I mean by that is every time you hit one of these things, it should give you a couple of points for it. I'm thinking, well, this high score, ignore that because that was just for a test. It just keeps track of that. But probably just 1 point if you hit it with a regular bullet. And then if you have one of these high-powered bullets, it should be worth maybe 3 or 4 points every time it hits a bumper. Because there is a time limit, it's going to prevent players from just gaming that system. It's also going to add a little bit of a risk-reward thing in there, because if you waste your bullets on trying to get like a bunch of points off the bumpers, it means you're not going to have bullets for the enemies. Also means if you don't hit them just right, it's more for you to dodge and stuff like that. So should be a good trade-off. Should be okay. So let's see, bumpers, hit with a bullet. Probably a lot of these are going to have their own. Yeah, because all of them have their own bullet collision event, so going to have something that adds points whenever a bullet hits it, based on the bullet that's hitting it. So the easiest way to test this is probably going to be to go to barrel, and let's see, where should I add the points? Script settings. I think I have all the points in here, somewhere down at the bottom. There we go, stats, high score, that's, okay, so score is where I'm keeping track of the points, so I should just add it there. Yeah, let's see, which one is it going to make more sense to add it for? Adding it to base score is probably going to make the most sense. So I've got 3 score things in here. And what it is because those bullets, when they hit an enemy, if they're worth more points, because the result screen shows the number of points you got just for killing enemies, and then the number of points you got based on the bullet being faster. Because it's broken up like that, that's why there's like these 3 different things: base score, multiplier score, and score. So it's just which one to add the barrel stuff to. I guess maybe 2 parts. Because each time it hits a barrel, if it's worth 1 point, that should be added to base score. And then if it's worth more because it's like a red bullet, it should be added to multiplier score. Seems to make the most sense. Let me just check the results screen really quick. And Bone Crusher 2002 drops by. Hey Bone Crusher, thank you for dropping by. I just went over like a lot of the changes to the game I made during like the Japanese vacation of Golden Week. All that's over the site, but right now just working on adding points to every time a bullet hits one of those bumper things in the game, and just trying to figure out which score to add these things to. So like for example, if I hit this bumper, that should be worth like a point, for example. But if I hit it with a faster bullet, it should be worth like 2 points there.
Game over.
Okay, let me turn on invincibility. And I'm going to use another cheat, which is the F9 key, which I have for debugging purposes, which just blows enemies up. Because I just want to see the results screen and figure out which score it's best to add those points to. So I could add it to base score. Bullet bonus. Yeah, okay, it makes sense to add it to the multiplier score then. Because it's labeled bullet bonus, so if the bullets are worth more when they're hitting the bumpers, it makes sense to add it to those points. Which means I have to use both of these. And Bone Crusher, by the way, how are you doing? Hope you're having a good weekend. Hope the weather's good where you are. Let's see, barrel. Let's start with barrel. So what do I need to do? I need to, well, let's make it simple. global base score. Global base score plus 1. That's the easy one. The hard one's going to be the bullet. So I have to figure out what the bullet is, how powered up it is. Score multiplier. Step bullet bounce check. Okay, so I can use this value. I can get that off of bullet. So let's see, it shouldn't be too difficult. I think I'm going to have to use a little scripting for this one, so I'll use it. And other is the other thing that's involved in the collision, which should always be bullet, because that's what I'm calling this from. So global, what was it, multiple points, multiply points, something like that. Let me take a look. Multiplier score. Just copy and paste it, makes it easy. And let's see. I guess if I do want to make the bumpers worth different point values in the future, I shouldn't hard code this number. So let's see, bump. PM score. And that's something I should set in create. And I'll just make it 1 point for now. So PM score, and then I should also do that here as well, instead of just hard coding 1. Let's see, bumper score, that's fine for that. Let me just check something, because there are non-abnormal bullets too. There's like the bullets that come off of the cactus and the Christmas tree. So I just want to make sure those have a score multiplier. Yes, okay, that's fine. So it should be okay just doing this. Let me test it out with the barrel. If this works, the points should go up every time a bullet hits them, and you should get more points if the bullet's going faster. Jump ahead. Non-tutorial version. Alright, so I've got 0 points now. Still have 0 points. Okay, because I'm not adding to score. That's a problem. How am I doing it for enemies? When a bullet hits an enemy, set the score to this. Okay, so I am updating the score at the same time. So let's do that. So I do need to set score to this as well. Score plus BM score times, what is it, BM times other dot, actually let's add this into here. It's going to be easier. Okay, so score is equal to, basically score is equal to this as well. And one thing I should check is how I'm doing this for the enemies as well. So spawn score holder, enemy score is equal to base score. Okay, that should be okay then. Let me just see how it's doing it, because I want to make sure I'm not double counting points here. I shouldn't be. Let's see, system score holder. Actually, it's UI, isn't it? Enemy score. Okay, so when this is showing the score, it is showing what? Multiplayer times score. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's just for display purposes. So, adding the score, that should be the exact same there. So that sets that up. Okay, let's see if this actually adds points every time you hit the barrel. Yes, and Bone Crusher mentioned, Rosiera, if you have a stream, I can help with coding as well. Yes, if you do stream live game development, let us know. Yeah, it'd be awesome. Because that's one of the funnest things is to actually watch someone else struggle through GameMaker. Sounds sadistic, but it's actually fun to watch someone else work in GameMaker because it's not me that has to like do all the ums and ahs and awkward debugging moments, and I can just feed advice, and if it doesn't work, I can just kind of shy away and say, well, we gave it the old college try. It's very fun to watch other people work in GameMaker. So I actually learn a lot that way too. But Bone Crusher would definitely be if he's working on a game like Raze, I'm sure he's got the experience to help too. So here we go. Let's see. Score 0. Score 1. Okay, the score is going up there. So now they are giving you extra points every time it bounces off. Kind of. I think I'm making a mistake here because the score is staying at 1. I'm probably just forgetting to plus something here. Yes, there we go. And I need to do that here as well. Forgetting to add the original thing, so it's just resetting it every time, which is no good. Now it should work. But yeah, Rosiera, the key to scripting is just to stick with it until you eventually pick it up. And it's like, the reason they call it a programming language is usually like scripting and things like that is it is a lot like learning a foreign language. You just kind of start with a few words per se, try to force your way around it, keep looking things up online. Eventually it sinks in. It just takes time, but okay, now the points are actually going up properly. Make sure I survive here. Let's turn on invincibility. Let's see. So if I hit the barrel with something higher powered, it should give me a lot of points. Yes, that gave me 20 points for hitting it with an exploding bullet. So that is working. Let's add that point stuff to the other object types here. So not just barrel, but just in case, the outhouse, the tombstone, the pumpkin, the Christmas present, and the bell's going to be a little different. The bell has to be a little bit different, but the beginning part's going to be the same, I think. The initial points you're going to get for hitting the bell are going to be the same, but I want it to be able to give you a few extra points every time it rings too. Crystal's going to be tricky because the alien laser is going to be hitting it. Let's just try it out the easy way and see how it works. Hopefully, because it's going to give you, it's going to cycle up every frame at the moment if I just do it like that, so that's going to be worth maybe way too many points, but let's try it. Laser spot. Let's do that as well. Do everything the easy way. Try the easy way first, right? Laser spots. So that's for the alien lasers. Why would an alien laser hit a Christmas tree? Well, that's because of the challenge levels. Okay, that should be all of them. Let's just test it out. The main thing I'm curious about is the laser. Like when the alien laser whips around and hits that crystal, is it going to be like shooting up the player's points? If it does, then that's probably not a good thing because you should be getting most of your points from killing enemies rather than just hitting these bumper things. And Rosiera mentions, I don't know if I have ready to make a real game. Yes, you do. It's not that hard. If I can do it, and I don't have much of a real brain myself, so you can do it. I think it takes a certain kind of person. Yeah, I mean, I guess the kind of person it takes is just someone who wants to really do it, and I think you are. But because you do like the idea of making something, it's a dream, and I'll continue to pursue it. Yes, you should. If you want to make a game, you can do it. It just takes time, patience. It literally is like learning a foreign language. Just as long as you do it a little bit every day, you will eventually get there. Like for this, for example, since last July 4th, I've been working on this. First time making a game in GameMaker. And just little by little picking it up. Let's jump to the alien stage and show the lasers hitting these crystals. Let's see what happens to the score here. Okay, it does shoot the points up. As you can see, I got like 61 points out of that. But that's actually not a bad idea. As you can see, just 3 crystal hits and I'm like already at 183 points, which is kind of ridiculous. But it's not too bad an idea because one of the problems with the alien stage is that the aliens are awfully hard to kill, especially with like reflecting bullets and stuff like that. So it's hard to get a lot of points on this stage. So making up for it by having a lot of points come off those crystals is not a bad idea. It might be. Whoa! What the heck just happened there? I think because my mouse went off screen or something. I'll have to look at the video for that later and figure out what just happened there. That was odd. Maybe the draw laser's going weird on me. Okay, well I'll have to worry about that problem later. But, yeah, like the standard enemy's worth 250 points, but each time an alien hits a crystal, it seems to be worth about 60 points. So that seems a little bit excessive. So what I probably want to do is limit the amount of points that a player gets through here. But I don't want fractions of points. I don't want, 100.2 points or something like that. That'd be really weird. So what I have to do is probably have a step variable in here. Crystal counter. Let's start it at 0. So I'll make a variable called crystal counter, set it to 0. And add a little bit of an if statement in here. Crystal counter equals 0. So every time crystal counter is equal to 0, then I'll go in here. Let's see, do I want to do an else? No, I probably don't want to do an else. And then I'll just increment it every time so that it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 every time it gets hit. And I'll do a quick check. If crystal counter is greater than, how many points should we make it worth if the laser hits? Maybe about a third of the points. So let's see, if crystal counter is greater than 3, 2, 3, let's try a fourth. So instead of 60, it'll be worth 15 points. We'll set it to 0. Okay, so let's just make sure this works. And Rosier says, more into 2D games. Most fun I had was making the sprites, fun to animate. Yeah, I'm the same way myself. I can make 3D games, but sprites I'm okay with, but modeling, no. Just don't have the chops to model. To get something looking halfway decent takes a lot of time for me. So just to get like one thing into the game would take me way too long. If I was working with like an artist, for example, then yeah, 3D game would be fine. But if I'm doing everything, yeah, I'd prefer to stick to 2D myself. So I definitely understand how you feel on that. Plus, there's just something I like about 2D because I was raised on the Commodore 64. Jamorian sent a few people over here, but he's the one who got me into the Commodore 64 because he had one. And I have that passion for those kind of games. So yeah, I'm more into 2D games myself. But Bone Crusher did send a link to his thing. I will show that once I show this laser thing to make sure that it's working, make sure that it's not worth too many points. Turn invincibility on. As you can see there, unlimited ammo and lives on. Alright. That's more reasonable. Alright, now it was worth 16 points. That was much more reasonable. So, you can get the aliens to keep kind of shooting around these things. That's fine. That seems reasonable. That's a good starting point. So every 4 frames, basically, just to show what this logic is doing. So it starts at 0, that's worth 1 point. No points. No points. No points, and then it wraps around to 0 again. So every 4 frames, it's worth a point. The only thing that kind of has me worried is, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with 60 frames per second, but if I switch down, for example, to 30 frames per second, I don't imagine I would do that, but so far I've always been making it robust like that. If I do switch it down, that means you're going to get half the points you did before. So using frames is kind of not the best way to go about this, but it's quick and dirty, it works. So I'll think about it. In fact, let me leave a note to myself about that. It won't take long, but just so I don't forget. I should probably make this so it's not working directly with frames. That'd be safer. And the next thing is the bell. To show you the bell, and once I show you the bell, I'll go over to Bone Crusher's Ludum Dare. By the way, congratulations on going into the Ludum Dare. That's very cool. For those of you who don't know what Ludum Dare is, it's a game jam. Comes up every once in a while. I can't remember what the last theme was, but it wasn't too long ago. It was like a couple of weeks ago, April. They had one. Basically, you get a weekend to make a game from scratch using whatever resources you can find. Let's go over here. So this is the bell. So you get a point every time it hits the bell, which is nice, but I want it to be able to give you a point every time it rings as well, just to make it a little more special. Let's see, bell, every time it rings. Okay, so this one shouldn't be too tricky because the bell, when it's ringing, what it does is it has a state that says bell ring is true, which means it's actually ringing. That state's used for a lot of things, like, for example, whether the ghosts are angry or not, whether bats are going to come down from the trees or not, but it can also be used probably for the points. In terms of that, let's see, animation speed. Let's see how many frames of animation I have for this bell. These are all up in bumper and bell. So I have 4. Really simple. Okay, so first frame, it's just there. That's the default. Then it rings left, comes back to normal, rings right, comes back to normal. So this is something where I can't really ignore the frame rate issue. So if I do want to have it worth a point every time it rings, let's see, once every 4 frames, I guess that would be kind of like the crystal. If it's ringing once every 4 frames, rather than, doing 1 point here, 1 point here, just do 1 point here, 1 point here. So basically, when it wraps back around to 0, that's the easy way to do this. Or when it gets to 3, it'd be a really easy way to do it, because then I don't even have to do a check on the state. I don't know. There's ways to do that, but the easiest way is just come into like step. Make sure I don't use step elsewhere. Yeah, I don't use step elsewhere. Easiest way is to come in here to step and just say if image index equals 3. This would be the easiest way to do this. And just add points here. because if it's not ringing, it's never going to go to image index 3. And that literally covers when it hits the right side, which would be kind of cool. That's not bad. The only problem is if I do go back and, for some reason, if I decide the bell needs a more complicated animation, and I up it to like 6 frames or something like that, then that's going to change this, which is not too cool. And Bone Crusher mentioned I have no problem with you playing live. Okay, well, we'll do that once I get this bell working. Let's see. Yeah, before I go on break, I'll check it out. So let's see, image index 3, that's probably not the best way to do this. Probably should do something like I'm doing with Crystal. And just say if bell ring is equal to true. So if the bell is ringing, and we'll do the same thing we did for Crystal. In fact, what did I call that? Counter. So let's call this bell counter. Started off at 0. In fact, let's do this. And we could probably copy this almost as is into step. Bell counter's 3. Okay, so if it's ringing and bell counter's 3, add points. Every step that it's ringing, add to the counter. When it gets up past 3, reset it down to 0. And I should also add an else in here to reset it. If the bell is not ringing, then bell counter should just be 0. Okay, that should solve it. In fact, let me check Crystal really quick. Bullet, laser spot. Yeah, because the thing is, if it's not being hit, it should be getting reset to 0. I guess it's not a big deal, because what's going to happen is if the laser does hit the bell or the crystal a few more times after it counted a point, then the next time a laser hits it, it's going to start with a crystal counter that's a little higher. So that's something else I'll have to think about too. But let's not worry about that for now. It's not a huge deal. At least with the crystal, it kind of makes sense. So the bell first. Alright. So now it should go up every time it rings. BL score multiplier. For object bell. Okay, because I'm doing this in step. That's a problem. I shouldn't be doing that. What's the problem is this. Because I'm using the exact same thing I did with the collision, that's not good. In fact, because it's just ringing, what to do about this? So the problem right now is, because this is going on in step, there is no bullet object that it's keeping track of in this part. But a bullet did start off that ringing. So what I probably need to do is grab that bullet score multiplier when it hits and just store it somewhere so that it can be used. If I want to do that, I may not even want to do that, because already in the game, if a normal bullet hits the bell, it rings a couple of times, but if a super powerful bullet hits the bell, it rings a lot longer. So you're already going to get more points for that. So I may not need to do this. Let's just do this. BM score. Yeah, there shouldn't be any multipliers in here. So BM score. I don't even need the script here. Let's keep it simple. As simple as possible. There. That's very simple. Now every time it rings, it'll just add 1 rather than anything else. Is that going to be enough? And NeoZoom drops by. Hey NeoZoom, nice to see you. Just checked out your page on Twitter. I think you posted something not too long ago. I'm not sure, or you favorited a tweet and I went over and saw you. But yes, I didn't put 2 and 2 together when I saw your username on Twitter and your username here. But now that I've seen like your Twitch link, got it. So NeoZoom also streams game development, I think. So if you check out his Twitch stream, you should be able to see stuff like that. Again, I keep doing this. I'm not sure if he or she, but I'm, just the assumptions, just based on things, just based on tendencies, I guess, for game development. But yeah, sorry I didn't put 2 and 2 together before. So just working on adding points every time you hit the bell here. That's worth a lot of points. Just ringing the bell is worth a ridiculous amount of points. I need to tone that down quite a bit. Yeah, okay, let's tone that down. Let's tone that down quite a bit. Let's think about the math here. How many points you should theoretically be getting. So if it's running at 60 frames and it gives you a point every 4 frames, that's 15 points per second. And if the bell's ringing for a couple of seconds, I mean, shoot, this would be the best stage to come in and rack up the points. So that's not good. All right, we need to up this quite a bit. What would kind of like the crystal, I suppose, but the problem is, like with ghosts, it's easier to kill ghosts than aliens, so it doesn't need to be worth as many points as the crystals. It just needs to give you a little something for those rings. Well, let's see. Set variable counter. Let's just try 12. Let's try 12. And let's see what happens. See how many points this is worth. Might still be worth too many. The problem with making it worth too few points is that even though the bell's ringing, the scores aren't going up. So that might be kind of weird. It's like, why is my score going up since it's not really linked to the bell? That's not bad, because the bell is ringing and the score is kind of slowly going up. The score's up here. Kill the ghost, so let me turn on invincibility here. Yeah, it kind of feels linked. It's going up at a pretty good rate. Let me take that bullet here. I just want to see what the points are for a ring worth, so let's see. I started at 15,000, 1,600. And ended up at 78, so 1,600. So worth about 18 points for just a standard ring. Let's charge the bullet up and see what's happening. And NeoZoom said, your game seems pretty advanced now. Congrats. Thank you. It has come along quite a ways in the past couple of weeks. Definitely adding a lot of visual flash to it. Okay, and yeah, an explosive bullet is worth more points. Okay, I think the bell's okay now. Seems to be worth a reasonable amount of points. And it's probably worth showing this since I haven't shown it so far. When the time limit starts to run out and the moon starts to dip down, the screen gets darker and darker, but there's a glow around things that are important. This is not to kind of like hide the game field in any way, shape, or form. It's just to kind of give the player a hint that, hey, you're running out of time. Better get moving. And yes, NeoZoom said there's a lot of people in here. Yes, there are. 15. At least what I'm seeing anyway. So thank you guys for watching. I'm glad my coffee's kicking in today. Probably too much. I'm probably a little too hyper right now.
Game over.
There we go. There's the time limit. So the bell seems to give you a reasonable amount of points. Bumpers, visual indication. And let's see, we're at right now. Whoops, I accidentally started it in debug mode. Let's see how this works. Probably have a bunch of weird stats and stuff showing up. Shouldn't affect the game itself though. So let's see, easiest way to show this is going to be maybe the crystal stage. Turn invincibility on so I don't kill myself while I'm showing this off. The score is 0 right now, but if I hit a bumper, I get points for that. Also, if the aliens hit the bumpers, you get points as long as your laser's hitting it. So right now as a system it's working, but there's not really much of a way to tell that that's working. Like for example, if you hit it, how do you know you're getting points other than watching here? It doesn't feel very pinball-like. Pinball is very good at giving you reactions based on everything. In fact, that's the thing about pinball. It almost gives you too much, so you don't really know what the F is going on. That's the whole fun of pinball, having like the ball bouncing around and hitting things and all these reactions, and you're like, yeah, I think cool stuff's happening. I think I'm getting points for stuff. Don't know what's going on. Oh, here it comes. Flip it up. So to kind of capture that atmosphere, obviously it's a different game. It's not going to be pinball. But to capture that action, probably have to do something with the bumpers to make them visually react to the bullets hitting them. Sumas drops by and asks, well, welcome Sumas. Are you enjoying using GameMaker? I made a random platformer generator. Sumas, I always mentioned it, but if you don't mind showing your stuff off, feel free to throw a link in there. People definitely, if they're watching this, they're probably interested in game dev and game development in general. So yeah, feel free to post a link to your stuff. I'd like to see it too. Random platformer generator. But yes, I am enjoying using GameMaker. Been using it since last July when I started this, and getting used to it. It's just the right amount of stuff. The right amount of like framework and tools that I need to make a game, and nothing more. That's what's nice about it. With Unity and Unreal Engine, yeah, I can use them, but it's just a little overkill for the stuff I want to do, and because I do want to show you guys everything that goes into making a game, and hopefully inspire you to go out and try it yourself, I'm trying to use probably the simplest tool I can to get what I need done. I think if I did use Unreal or if I did use Unity, yeah, they're more popular, but they're also more complicated because they can do a whole lot more. So to keep it as simple as possible, I chose GameMaker, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Have you used GameMaker yourself? That would be a question. Let's come over here to Bumper and see what we can do. Just noticing the crystal now because it's flashing. May not be able to get away with doing this the easy way, but we'll try the easy way first. The easy way is going to be to have the bumper use an image blend. Use this image blend in GameMaker to change colors when it gets hit. It's the easiest way to change a sprite. If you want to change sprite with anything more complicated than this, you actually have to have another sprite and switch between them, which is a possible solution too. But we'll see if we can get away with just making it, flash to a different color really quick when it gets hit by a bullet. The one problem is going to be it's going to need a timer, because if it gets hit by a bullet, if it's just going to flash for the one frame that a bullet actually hits it, it's basically going to be invisible to the naked eye, so it needs to last for a few frames, maybe a quarter of a second or something, a tenth of a second. So let's try it. Let's try it with something simple. Let's try it with the barrel. Let's see. I'll just put it in script. So what I probably need to do is all of these bumpers inherit from this one parent called bumper. So if I add a variable in here, it'll add it everywhere. If I create something called BM hit, which means where you hit with a bullet, I could set that to false. And I could set an alarm here. Let me make sure I'm not using the same alarm I'm using in other bumpers, because I don't want to accidentally do that. The bumpers that are going to have alarms are bell. I'm using 0 and 1, and crystal. Crystal not. Cactus, using 1. Christmas tree using 1. So if I use alarm 2, I should be okay. So alarm 2, all this is going to do is set BM hit back to false. And I'm going to call this when I'm done basically making it flash or do whatever it's going to do. So adjust the color. So when a bullet hits it, I need to change BM hit to true. I also need to call that alarm, which is alarm 2. And number of steps, room speed. Room speed is the number of frames per second. So if I want to do 1 second, for example, I could do this. But let's just do 1/4 of a second for now. And rather than hard code this in, I'm going to make a constant so that later on I know what this means. Let's call it bumper hit time. And put it in there. Okay. So now when I actually come by and see this 0.25, I can see bumper hit time. Okay, that's what that means. Much better to do it that way. The nice thing about constants is, assuming GameMaker does them the way that anything else does, it replaces them when it compiles. So shouldn't be any drawback to using them, unlike with variables where it has to look it up from memory. So there we go. Let's comment this so I know what's going on. Trigger a bumper hit. Okay. So BM hit is true for 1/4 of a second. So while BM hit is true, if BM hit is true, then do that, otherwise do that. So the otherwise is easy. Image blend equals C white, I think is the default. C white is GameMaker's version of white. What this means is it's just adding no color to it, which is the default. It just shows the sprite as is. Now for this, probably want to give the player some feedback as to what kind of bullet hit the thing. So let's store that somewhere. So I need another variable for that. And hit color. Let's make it C white by default, actually. That's the easiest way to do it. And so when a bullet hits, it should transfer this over. BM hit color. Hopefully I can remember that. Let's see, how can I go about this? BM hit color. I need to set that in here. Bullet. Bullet's going to have the information I need. Because the bullets speed up. They start out gray and then they go like light blue, yellow, orange, red, white. And what I need is the information on what color it is. Bullet bounce check. Image speed, image index 4. Part type color. Yeah, so I'm going to have to use this based on this. So I'm going to have to copy a lot of this over. Let's just copy it as is and then trim off what we don't need. It's probably the easiest way to do this. So other is going to be the bullet. I don't need any of this. But I do need to remember to do this every time. And I'll get to the chat question really quick once I finish this off. Easy enough. Okay. So based on the number of bounces of the bullets, I should set the color here. In fact, I should probably just set it here. Don't even really need to do much more than this, do I? Yeah, now I need to make this a variable. BM hit color. Okay, yeah, let's do BM hit color. So if I just change it directly in here, changing it back is going to be trickier. So let's see. This is unfortunately just going to be the same color, so I need to do something with this. Let's try purple. Just for now, just to get it working. So let's make it purple if an explosive hits it. Purple. If a red bullet hits it, let's make it red. If an orange bullet hits it, let's make, well, tan bullet hits it based on the Commodore 64 colors. If a yellow bullet hits it, make it yellow. If a cyan bullet hits it, make it cyan. And if a gray bullet hits it, make it dark gray. Alright. There's our base. Let's go back to draw, adjust the color. Theoretically, that should work. What this should do is change the color of the barrel for a quarter of a second after a bullet hits it. Well, let's see what happens. And NeoZim did mention, I think scripts is the way GMS is meant to be used for complex stuff. Yes, that's the thing I realized kind of partway through the project. I started trying to do everything visual. That was kind of one of the reasons I used, well, I chose GameMaker to do this. Was because it's very visual, so it's very easy to kind of explain how things are working, but as time goes on, you kind of run into this wall where you can't do everything with the visual stuff, so you have to move more and more into scripts, and then you have this weird complicated mess of visual stuff and scripts, and I think if you're used to scripting, it's probably fine to just have these objects out here and just literally do everything through scripts. The other good thing about scripts is one thing I found out during Golden Week while I was searching around for stuff. Good thing about scripts is you can do this. You can do search in scripts. If you want to find where you're setting BM hit, for example, you can do that. If you use the visual stuff, you can't do that. So if you're using, like, you know, well, what I'm using here, for example, bumper. So for example, setting BM hit to false here, that doesn't show up in any search as far as I know. So you're kind of screwed. That's where it's nice to use scripting because you can do searches and everything. So if you're making a complex game, maybe if I were starting over, I might just use scripts for everything. But, you know, in a way, this visual layout does help me a bit. As you can see, I'm pretty much using scripts for everything within there now, but it can be something. And yeah, as NeoZim mentioned, parenting is a dangerous feature, useful, but can mess up many things. Yeah, because the worst thing about parenting in this is if you forget that you're doing it, you get this weird behavior. Like, for example, there, what I was just adding with the bumpers. If I had forgotten that Cactus and Christmas Tree use Alarm 0 and Alarm 1, and I just threw Alarm 0 on the parent, then weird things happen with Cactus, and it's like, what is going on here? Yeah, so parenting can be kind of tricky in GameMaker. If you have the project in your head, it's okay, but if it's a big project, you're going to start losing stuff. Very dangerous. So NeoZim, good warning. Yes, parenting is powerful, but it can be very dangerous. And Cirrus drops by. Hey Cirrus, hey buddy. Thank you for dropping by. Just working on adding points to the bumper stuff. Right now, if this works, the color should change if I hit the barrel with a bullet. Let's see how it changes. Very chatty this episode, so I'm sorry to you guys who are watching this later on YouTube. Probably not seeing much get done. But, you know, I'm pretty good about editing the videos on YouTube lately to kind of trim them down a bit, keep them reasonable. Alright, let's hit this barrel with a bullet and see what happens. Yes! It reacts! It reacts! There we go. Changes color for a little bit. Let's see what happens when we hit the cyan. Changes to a different color. Already it makes much more sense. There's a good example. Oh, I love it when something works the way I expect. Right off the bat. Makes life easy. Usually it doesn't work that way. But, you know, as you can see, the barrels are changing color as bullets hit them. The thing where this is going to kind of go haywire is with the crystals, because I think I'm already using image blend on the crystals. Let's see what happens. Oh well, I haven't added the code to the crystals yet, so let's do that. Barrel's working fine. Let's get it working with the other stuff. So, how far have I gotten with the other ones? Grab the bullet points. So I need to add all of this to the other code here. By the way, Cirrus, I did watch the first season of American Horror Story. Thank you for the recommendation. That was very good. I'm in season 2 right now, episode 2. Definitely the Insane Asylum is an interesting setting, and it's cool to see all the characters back in different roles. And I'll take your advice and skip season 3 and go straight to 4. Maybe go back and see 3 later. Let's see. Oh, mouse bullet. So I just need to add this to all of these. So theoretically, if I was doing this smart, what I could do is add this to the parent code for the bullet and then call invent inherited. But I worry about that stuff later. I usually tend to get stuff working first. Kind of hacky way to get things done, but I usually try to clean stuff up later, because if I try to clean stuff up now, it's kind of like writing. Like when you're writing, if you try to make a clean, edited draft as you write, you end up never getting things done, so I try to avoid doing that. Yeah, bullet. Alright. Cactus, bullet, tree, bullets, handling it differently. I'll have to think about this one. I'll worry about that later. So I do things the quick and dirty way first, very hacky, and then get it working properly later. So this is one thing where, because I am copying and pasting code, inheritance would actually help me out, because it's the exact same thing I'm doing for all of these. But who knows, maybe I need to change this up a little bit depending on the bumper. We'll see. Did I do it for bumper? Yeah. And the other thing I have to do for bumper is this. Okay, there we go. And that should do it. Let's see what happens. I'm not handling laser hits, so we'll see how that goes later, but let's see what happens with the crystal first. Because I think the crystal already turns red when a laser's hitting it. And I'll turn invincibility on so I don't die for you. That's the F8 key for me. Okay, I need to add the draw stuff in. Sorry, my bad. I need to add this in too. So add event. Well, let's see. If I add it to bumper draw, should be good for most of these. Pumpkin doesn't have its own draw. Present doesn't have its own draw. Bell does have its own draw, so I have to worry about that here. Crystal should have its own draw, so I have to worry about that here. Heat effect. Okay, I'm using a different sprite for the hot crystal, so I should be okay. That's something where using a different sprite helps. Cactus. Christmas tree. Okay, Christmas tree doesn't have its own draw for some reason, so I'm okay with that. Oh, because it's inheriting from cactus. See, there we go with inheritance. Getting confusing. So Christmas tree just uses all of this, as is. And skull does have its own draw, because of the flies. Okay. Let's see if it works for the other bumpers. And Cirrus also, by the way, thank you for mentioning Friday the 13th. Whoops, I want to full screen this. That was a bad idea. You guys aren't going to be able to see what's at the bottom of the screen, so let's not do that. Get brightness down to normal. Okay. Thank you for getting me on a Friday the 13th kick, because I watched part 1 through 4, marathoned them. And definitely liked all of them, because I hadn't seen all of them since I was a kid, so it was pretty much fresh to me. 5 and up I've seen multiple times since I was a kid, but up until 5 just haven't, so now I have the entire series in my head. The only one I haven't seen is Jason X. And maybe that's for the best, I don't know. Okay, Tombstone, Pumpkin's working. Cactus is working, Bones are working, Crystal's working. So they change color whenever a bullet hits them. Let's just make sure the hot versions work. Yep, hot versions work too. So I should be good. Present works, Christmas tree works. Here's a challenge level.
Game over.
Good luck surviving that. Okay, so we got it working. Got it working. So there is some visual indication that your bullet is hitting the bumper and that it's being counted for points. I don't actually show the points you get. I think that would just be too much if you saw like little number ones and stuff coming off of like these bumpers. So I think I'll keep it as is. See how it goes. Let's see. Let's move this one up. So for that crystal, I did do the quick and dirty way, which is working on frames, but let's see if I can work it on room speed instead. Now that I'm in it, let's see. So right now, just every 4 frames, it gives you a point. Would rather do it based on seconds. So let's see how to do this. Well, right now it's being calculated fine, and right now it's 60 divided by 4. Every 15 frames it's giving you a point. So what I could do is room speed divided by 4. And since who knows what room speed could be, it should be 30 or 60 frames per second, but just in case, let's make this greater than or equal to. Because otherwise, if I have something that doesn't divide by 4, I'm going to have a decimal and it's never going to reach this. So just to be on the safe side, it's probably overkill, but just to be on the safe side. And let's do that here too. In fact, now that I'm doing greater than, let's just do that. So I don't have to do this extra check out here. Oh, let's see. And then 4. Actually, instead of divide by 4, let's do times 0.25 again. And let's make that a constant so that I don't just have this random number 2.5 in here. So every 0.25 seconds you get a point when the laser's hitting the crystal. Crystal hit time, Crystal Lake time, now that I've got Friday the 13th in my head. Yes, Cirrus mentioned, can't believe you marathoned them. Yes, Friday the 13th is a hard movie to marathon. When you watch them one at a time, it's really, really cool. But when you watch them in a row, a pattern starts to emerge, and that's probably why I liked 4 the best out of the 4 that I watched. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, because Part 4 was the only one where people are actually fighting back against Jason, so it kind of broke the pattern a little bit. But 1, 2, 3, it was kind of the same. It's like, okay, well, the teenagers are going off to do their thing. This guy's going to the bathroom. It's like, okay, well, Jason's going to show up and kill him. It starts to get a little repetitive when you watch them run one after the other, which is why 4 was the most interesting, because he had, the kid and the guy that was trying to get revenge for his sister and everything else. So it kind of broke the pattern the most of the 3. And Cirrus gives me the advice, do not watch Jason X. I don't know, I enjoy bad movies as well, so I'm kind of tempted to watch it just for completing the set, because it is, I think, the only one I haven't seen. I think I have seen Jason Goes to Hell. I might not have seen that one. I know so much about it that I think maybe I haven't seen it, but it is in my head. Let's just make sure the crystal works. And yes, Cirrus, can't believe you binged watch season 1 so fast. Yeah. American Horror Story. It was a good chance because I had the week off for Japanese Golden Week. So it was a good chance to watch American Horror Story. at least get season 1 down, because if I get season 1 down, then I'm hooked. So it's easier to watch just episode here and there after that. Okay, let's chest out the crystals. Let's make sure you're still getting points properly when the aliens hit them. Invincibility on. Ugh, all right. Well, that would have been nice not to get hit by the laser. This guy should fire. Okay, it's still counting up. Let's see. Every 0.25 seconds. So you're not getting as many points as before. So I miscalculated there. I miscalculated. 60 divided by, it's not 60 divided by 4, it's probably 60 divided by 15. So 4 divided by 60 should have actually been this, not 0.25 or whatever. So let's change that to... This is where making constants comes in handy, because I only have to change this in one place. Let's do 0.05. There we go. Now you should get more points for that. And Sumas jumping in on the Friday the 13th action. Yes, Jason X is funny. Okay, I would imagine it has to be. Jason in space. It has to be ridiculous. There's no logical way to make a serious movie out of that. And Freddy vs. Jason also funny. Yeah, I did see Freddy vs. Jason, and I've seen the new Friday the 13th movie, so I'm caught up on those ones. Freddy vs. Jason was very odd. It was interesting because Sierra sent me a link about a fan-made movie about why the newer Friday the 13th movies were just so odd. That was a good movie to watch. Sirius, if you still do have that link, feel free to post it in the Twitch feed, because that was actually a really interesting documentary. Kind of a fan documentary. There we go, the score's going up. 20 points for hitting a crystal with a laser, so I think we're good to go. 20 points per hit. Maybe tone that down a little bit. Let's do 0.1. Okay, so that problem's solved. Let's get that off there. Now, bumpers swaying and reacting to bullets. I'll have to think about this one. Am getting to the end of the 2 hours for this week. Had so much fun chatting with all of you guys. Probably didn't get as much done as you were expecting, but the thing about bumpers reacting and swaying to bullets, not sure if it's worth doing, because if bullets hit them from different angles, is it going to make sense to have, for example, the barrel doing something like this? Let's just do it in GameMaker, because that's the easiest way to do it. Is it going to make sense to have it do something like this? Rotation clockwise, 15 degrees. GameMaker doesn't do a very good job of rotating sprites, so let's not worry about that. Rotation counterclockwise. Oops. I guess I need 2 frames. 15. But like, would it, for example, be worth having it do this, where it's like it's tilting when the bullet's hitting it? I don't know. You guys let me know. Is it worth having the barrel like kind of knock back and forth when the bullet hits it? Keep in mind that the bullet could hit it from the bottom or the top, and it's probably going to be too difficult to make it tilt in the Y direction, so it's just always going to be that same horizontal tilt when a bullet hits it. I'm thinking it's going to be kind of weird. I can test it. We'll see. But that's a task for another time. Did I accidentally change this? Okay. I'm going to think about this swaying thing, because I'm not sure if it's worth doing or not. Maybe I'll do a test this weekend and see if it looks alright. If it does, then maybe I'll think about putting it in there. But, let's see. Let's think about next week. First, let's go over what we did do today. All the bumpers are worth points when a bullet hits them. Every bell, every time it rings, it's worth a couple of points. The bumpers do change color when a bullet hits them, so that you know that they're reacting, kind of like pinball when they light up. And the crystal changes the laser spot. One thing I might do with that image blend is also change the way it shows up. Like maybe it should get brighter instead of darker. So that's something I'll think about. But there we go. We got the bumpers actually giving players points. So there is a bit of a risk-reward involved in the game. You could theoretically set your bullets bouncing back and forth between the bumper and the side of the screen to try and game it for points. So the problem is you're going to lose a bullet that you could have used on an enemy, and that bullet's going to be there in case you have to run away from an enemy. So that's a little bit of a risk-reward system. Like the coins, when the enemies drop them, if you go around collecting all of those, you're probably going to get yourself shot like I always do. So that's episode 45. Let's think about next week. For those of you who are new to this, I do this every week for 2 hours. Had a good time chatting today. Had a lot of people in here. Also, thank you, Jim Morian, for sending some people my way. Had a lot of people, had a lot of chatting, had a lot of coffee, so very chatty today. Probably didn't get a lot of tasks done, but usually get quite a bit done. Trust me, usually get more done than this. I'll have to think about that. 2 hours is not a lot of time when you're chatting. Let's see, next week. One thing I'm thinking about changing in the game is right now, the player, when the player starts with 6 bullets, 6 shooter, starts with 6 bullets, and when the player runs out, can't shoot anymore. So what that means is the player has to run around, either hope that one of the bullets on the screen kills an enemy so that they can get a bullet pickup. Let me fire off all my bullets here to show you what I'm talking about. Oops, have to turn invincibility off, which is unfortunate because now I have a ton of bullets flying around. It's like there, I can't fire any more bullets. So if I can survive, which I won't.
Game over.
Let's do this one normally. Okay, let's see if I can survive until an enemy dies. Ah, like there. That enemy died, so I can collect a bullet, pick up, and shoot another bullet. Problem with that is I only get a bullet at a time, which means, you know, it's fine to have to run and grab that bullet, pick up, but then you're back to just one bullet, which is not so fun. I'm still in the air about this, but there's 2 ways I can kind of go about this. I could do it where if you grab that bullet pickup, you get the full 6 bullets back. Or the other option is, you know, when you run out of bullets, this is a horrible, horrible bullet chamber. Hopefully I can get 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like if you were out of bullets, maybe have like a time where you're just reloading, like a bullet goes in, a bullet goes in, a bullet goes in, until it fills out, and just make that kind of a time delay so that if you fire off all 6 bullets, you just have to wait. Hard to say. What's the right way to go about this in terms of gameplay? The thing that's nice about forcing the player to run over here, run over here to grab this pickup, is it puts the player at risk. Like there, when I had all those bullets flying around, I had to actually move to pick up that bullet. So that's where that system's nice. This delay system would be kind of interesting because it puts all the player power in the player's hands. Could also be kind of neat to have the bullets kind of recharge faster and faster as it goes. So if you don't wait for the full 6 bullets to charge up, then you kind of have to wait again. So if you're an impatient player, maybe it penalizes you there. There's 2 ways to go about this, and I'm kind of curious to see which way is going to be the better way to go about this. The easier way is this one, obviously, because it's just literally making one change to a variable. If you pick up the bullet pickup, instead of getting 1 bullet, you get 6. Easy enough. This one's going to be a little more work. Hard to say. With this, the downside to this is that because you have an unlimited supply of bullets, that means there could be just tons and tons of bullets on the screen. It's your fault for putting them there, granted, but I don't know. Which one's going to work better with the game? If you guys have an opinion, especially you guys who've watched the show for like months, for example, like Bone Crushers, Cirrus, Neozoom, if you've seen the shows before, if you do have kind of an opinion on which one you think would be better, definitely be curious to hear that, because I'm kind of up in the air on which one's actually going to work better for gameplay. Might try them both out and just maybe have a switch that goes back and forth and just try them both out for a while and see which one feels right for the game. That might be the best way to go about it. But I think that's going to be a task for next week because that's going to change the gameplay up quite a bit. So that's worth doing early. HUD bullet chamber animation. I'm not going to worry about that. The other thing I need to do is add levels to the game. right now, Cirrus, you weren't here to see this, but there is a map in the game now, and there's kind of these placeholder levels. So like the town has 4 levels, finishing with a boss. So here's level 1. Level 2 is just blank, 3 is just blank, and then 4 is that boss stage from before. And that's how all of them work. So what I have to do is fill out these blank stages. And I also have to worry about the difficulty curve. Like right now, stage 1 is probably too difficult for stage 1. This would probably fit better for stage 2 or 3. So I need to kind of balance the game out and add those levels in, kind of flesh them out. That's kind of a big task. But if I can get to that, I'll start on it next week. So those are going to be the tasks for next week. Either do one of those 2 systems. Either a bullet pickup completely recharges your bullet cylinder, or you can wait and it recharges over time. Try out those 2 different systems and then add levels in. So that's going to do it for next week. Cirrus, thank you. Like the map idea. Yes, let me explain why I added that. The reason is, before it was just 1 stage per theme. You jumped straight from the town to the graveyard, to the desert, to the alien stage, to the snow stage, and then you went to the last boss. If I do add more levels in, like if you're going to do town level 1, 2, 3, 4, the problem is the player might think this is all there is to the game. It's just the town just over and over again with different enemies. If you have a map, at least I thought that if you had a map, the nice thing is you know that it's going to change eventually as long as you stick with it. So I thought it was kind of necessary if I'm going to add levels. So that's the reasoning behind the levels. Thank you guys for watching. Wow, there's a lot of people today. And good chat, good chat. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you come by next week. Let me get my information so I can tell you about when the show is on. Jump off the desktop there. Grab my times, because I hate getting my times wrong, because it screws you guys up if I give you the wrong times as to when I'm doing this. There we go. Thank you for watching our game development show this week. You can catch past episodes and this one over at youtube.com/Tengu Studio, all one word. If you're watching this later on YouTube, definitely come drop by the live show we do every week on Twitch TV Blue Tengu. You can jump in the chat, you can post links to your stuff. It's more fun to be here with us live. We do this, if you're in the Americas, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific on Fridays, 5 to 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 to 8 p.m. Central, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're in the UK, you have passed daylight savings time, so I can update the time. Midnight Saturday, you know, that cusp from Friday going into Saturday, that midnight to 2 a.m. If you're here in Japan with me, easiest time to tell you, because it's my time, 8 to 10 a.m. Saturday morning. If you're in Australia, depending on where you live, it starts from 7 to 9 and goes from 9 to 11 on Saturday morning. And if you're in New Zealand, it starts 11 a.m. Saturday morning and goes until 1 p.m. We do always announce what we're doing through Twitter, so that's the easiest way to keep track. Obviously, following us on Twitch would be awesome. Definitely appreciate when you guys do that. But you can also follow on Tengu on Twitter. That should be over. Let's get my finger pointing the right way. Over there. If you follow Tengu on Twitter, we usually announce 10 to 15 minutes before the show starts, and then when the show starts, if I don't forget. Or we also announce when episodes go up on YouTube. So following us on Twitter is probably the easiest way to keep track of what we're doing. Of course, you can see what we're up to anytime over at www.bluetengu.com. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Bone Crusher, NeoZoom, Cirrus, and all of the other guys for joining in the chat and saying hello. Thank you to all the new guys and gals who dropped by, and thank you, Jim, for sending a bunch of cool people my way. Definitely appreciate that. If you're into Kerbal Space Program, check out Jamorian's stream. It's very, very good. If you like Kerbal Space Program, that is the feed to watch. He's an excellent streamer. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time.